What is up, guys? Kazabai HD here, and I'm gonna tell a story about how I got appendicitis. And if you guys don't know what appendix is, it is like a small little organ that's kind of like a tube shaped, and it's attached to the I think it's the large intestines. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the large intestines. But anyways, it's attached to there, and it's like kind of by your right pelvis area. And it's like a organ that we used to use, but we don't really use it anymore, I guess, is what the doctors say and stuff. But so yeah, it's okay if you get it taken out. And this is just my story of me getting appendicitis, and that's where it gets infected. Pretty gross. But alright, so this is how it started. I was in 6th grade when I first had stomach pains. And I had like really bad stomach pains, actually. They were to the point where I would cry sometimes. And so I came home one day crying from one of my stomach pains. And my dad had appendicitis before me, so he obviously was like speculating maybe this is appendicitis, but he didn't want to jump to conclusions because it was just the first day I started having these really bad stomach pains. So the next day, I go to school, and the night when I came home and I was trying to sleep was so bad because of how bad it hurt. Like, I couldn't sleep the whole night, and I was like up every hour, just like holding my stomach and like going to the bathroom because I didn't know if it was something bad I ate or something, you know. And so the next day I am in my first period class, which is a science class, and I had like the best teacher of all time. She was so awesome. I was her TA in 8th grade, and if you guys don't know what TA is, a teacher's assistant, so you get to hang out in their classroom for one period. And in my middle school we had 6 periods, which were each an hour long. So that's pretty cool. I got like a free hour to myself, and sometimes I would grade papers of hers. But anyways, I was in her classroom, and I told her about the whole situation, that I've been having really bad stomach pains, and I told her that my dad said that if I have him again in her classroom, just to tell her, and that I should go to the nurses and we should call her. And call my dad, sorry. And so I was in her classroom, and towards the end of the period, I started having super bad stomach pains. And they're like in the area of my pelvis where your appendix is. And so we were about to walk to the nurses, and I collapsed kind of like on the ground. Like, it was like not that I was unconscious. I was conscious, but like I collapsed to the ground because I couldn't walk, because that's how bad it hurt. And so she grabs a wheelchair, and she's like, ooh, that little cheeky 3-piece there. So she grabs a wheelchair, and we go to the nurse's office, and we call my dad. And so my dad rushes down there, and he's like, okay, he's talking to me on the phone. He's like, I'm driving right now. We're going to go to the ER, and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening, because he never told me that he had appendicitis. I didn't even know what it was also. So I'm like freaking out. And so I get in the car, and we start to going to, oh my gosh, there's a lightning strike, hide in the building. We start going to the ER, and we pull up into the entrance of the ER, which is connected to the hospital. And this is my local ER, not the one that I went to with my broken leg, because that was in a giant city. I live in a small city. So we start going. Whoa, that was super bad, my aim. So we start going, and we go in, and I'm wheeled in, and they're like, okay, so what's wrong? And we're just like telling them stomach pains, and my dad says, I think you might have appendicitis. I had appendicitis a couple of years ago, and I had the exact same symptoms. So of course they knew what appendicitis was, so they start checking me out. They get me in a room, and they tell me to jump up and down, and to tell me if any of the tests hurt. And I say, no, I can jump up and down perfectly. And they're like starting to think, okay, maybe this is an appendicitis, because my stomach pain was like, my stomach felt normal. Like, I had no pain whatsoever. And so that was super weird, because like all of a sudden it just got better. And they're talking to my dad, and they're talking to me, and they're saying, and then my mom actually comes in, because of course she's my mom, so she's gonna be there if I'm in the hospital. And so she and not my surgeon, my doctor for the ER, because he wasn't my surgeon yet, because we weren't having surgery. But he talks to my mom and my dad, and they are talking about, well, you can have your son have surgery. He might not need it though, because his appendix, all our tests have run, and it doesn't seem like he has appendicitis. So my parents are like kind of like speculating, because they're like, okay, he should probably just have the surgery since it doesn't matter. And they said, well, it's up to you, Elias. And I was like, I want to have the surgery. Even if I don't have appendicitis, it's not going to hurt having my appendix out, and better safe than sorry, you know? And they were like, okay, so you're going to have surgery tonight. And I was getting prepped for surgery, and I was freaking out because that was my first surgery. Yeah, it was my first surgery. I never had stitches before or anything, and I sure as heck did not have surgery before this. And so I was freaking out, of course. You know, I'm a little 11-year-old. I'm pretty sure I was 11. 11-year-old in the hospital getting prepped for surgery. And so I get into the little doctor's office kind of surgery room, and they're telling me what's gonna happen, and they're gonna make a small incision, and yeah. So I'm getting prepped for that, and I am just sitting in on the surgery bed, actually. So I'm in a bed, and I get rolled in to the main surgery room where they're actually gonna do my surgery. And it looked really weird. It was all white. It had fluorescent lights everywhere. It was the brightest room I think I've ever been in my life. And it was just like really weird. It totally looked like straight out of a horror movie, like those butcher shops, you know? So that's kind of creepy. And so I go into the surgery room, and they start putting the I had an IV in already, and so they put in what is it? It's like what's that stuff that makes you like pass out? I can't remember. I gotta remember what it is. It's like, oh my gosh. So alright, so the drug was called, they put it in my IV. It was called, it wasn't called Novocaine. It was like, here, let me ask my friend. Yo, Fog. Do you know what it's called? It's called what? Yeah, so it's like a gas you breathe in. It's called, oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Because my sister just had surgery. I'm actually gonna have a story about that too later this week. It starts with an A. It's like, I don't know. I really don't know. I may say it at the end of the video if I remember. But anyways, so they put me under, and they're you know, they're talking to me. They're like, count back from 10. So I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3. I'm like, oh, sorry, because they said count back. So I was all like scared because I didn't know like what the surgeons were gonna do to me because I disobeyed the rules, you know. So I started counting back, and then all of a sudden everything just spins, and I'm like passed out. And so that was really weird. And so I pass out, and I don't remember anything. I just wake up in this really, really weird room. My family's there, and they were like, they let me wake up, and then they tell me, so yeah, it's a really good thing, Elias, that you decided to have surgery, because your appendix was infected at the bottom, and it was about to burst. And if you guys, if it bursts, there's a really high risk of people dying if it bursts. So that was scary. And so I'm like, oh, you know, phew, thank God that it did not burst and I got out alive. And so, oh no, I'm trying to get this challenge where I do my active camo and then kill someone. But so I'm like settling down, and I am in the recovery room, and I'm just kind of like chilling with my family, and then the surgeons come in and they tell me the same thing. Your appendix was about to burst, and they were like telling me that my appendix was longer than usual, and it was like down in my pelvis area, not like where my large intestines are. And so we started making a bunch of jokes about that, and so that was pretty funny. And a couple days later, I think it was like 2 days later, maybe, I was in the recovery room. I go home and I'm wheeled out and I'm just relaxing, and I cannot lie, it was pretty nice because since I was just in the hospital, I got to miss like a week of school, so that was pretty cool. I was just like chilling, you know. I come back to school and my friends all like, "Oh my gosh, Elias, what happened?" And I'm like, "No big, you know, I just had surgery." It's like this big thing in school. Everyone knows that I had surgery and stuff. And so it was pretty funny to tell all my friends and everything. And so yeah, that was pretty much all what happened. And yeah, it was a pretty scary experience. That was my first ever surgery experience, actually. And oh my gosh, grenade! Boom, get punched. Get punched, boy. Oh, I got this new psychedelic, what's it called? Oh, it kicked you out of the lobby? Oh, that sucks. Well, yeah, so that was the end of the story, and it was pretty insane. First, if I can't lie though, it was a pretty good first surgery experience. I mean, I'm not sure what a good one is, but like if I have to say like if it was good or bad, it was probably good, cause it ended out that nothing bad happened, thankfully, since I had surgery. And yeah, so I'm all fine now, and that was actually like 4 years ago. So obviously I'm fine, but yeah, so just stay tuned for more stories. I'm gonna have a lot more stories out this week. And yeah, well, it's been Caused by HD, and I will see you guys later. Peace.